March 26, 1997. A mansion in Rancho Santa Fe, California. 39 bodies, purple shrouds, matching shoes, a patent bag beside every bed. They did not look like victims. They looked like they had somewhere to go. How do 39 people arrive at this moment and believe they are not dying, but departing?
In 1972, a music professor checked into a psychiatric facility. There, he met a nurse with a mission.
That answer does not begin in 1997. It begins 25 years earlier in a psychiatric clinic in Houston, Texas. Marshall Applewhite was a music professor, charismatic, articulate, well-liked by students. He was also divorced, struggling with his sexuality in a culture that had no room for it, and, by his own account, falling apart. He checked himself into a psychiatric facility in Houston. There, he met Bonnie Nettles, a nurse, an astrology enthusiast, a woman already convinced she had been placed on Earth for a spiritual purpose. They formed a bond that neither of them could fully explain. Within months, they came to believe they were the two witnesses described in the Book of Revelation, sent to guide humanity to a higher plane of existence. They called themselves the Two. Later, Bo and Peep. Later still, T and Doe. She gave him a framework for the shame he could not resolve. He gave her a voice that people wanted to follow. Together, they became something that neither could have been alone. She gave him a framework. He gave her a voice.
Their message was not chaos. It was a system, rules, levels, and a way out of being human.
The ideology they built was precise. Earth was a garden. Human bodies were containers, vehicles, nothing more. The soul inside could evolve, but only by overcoming everything the body wanted. Desire, attachment, identity, sex. If you shed all of it, you could reach what they called the next level. A plane of existence above human, guided by beings who had already made the transition. Ty and Dew were those guides. They had come down from the next level to collect anyone ready to leave. This was not preached on street corners to vulnerable people. It was offered in living rooms, at college campuses, in rented lecture halls. The early followers were not drifters. They were college-educated, thoughtful, searching for meaning in a decade that felt like it had lost its center. Ty and Doe were not hunting for broken people. They were offering answers to people already asking questions, and people came. They were not hunting for broken people. They were offering answers.
The rules came slowly. A new name, a new diet, new clothing. Eventually, nothing left was yours.
Through the late 70s and into the 80s, the group lived communally. They moved frequently, stayed off the grid, kept to themselves. The rules increased in small steps. No sex, no drugs, no alcohol, no personal relationships outside the group. Members adopted new names, combinations of letters and numbers that carried no history. Gender was erased. Unisex clothing, short haircuts, androgynous presentation. The body was a vehicle, nothing more. You did not decorate a rental car. You did not name it. You did not form an attachment to it. Each rule, taken alone, sounded disciplined, almost monastic. But each rule also removed one more thing that connected a person to the world outside the group. Members were assigned partners, not for companionship, but for accountability. Your partner watched you. You watched your partner. If one of you wavered, the other reported it. The group called this support. A name is a tether. A relationship is an anchor. A sense of self is a reference point. Remove all of them, and the only reference point left is the one the group provides. You did not lose your name. You outgrew it.
She was the only one who could challenge him. And then, she was gone.
In 1985, Bonnie Nettles was diagnosed with cancer. It had started in her eye and spread to her liver. She died on June 19th. This is the moment the story turns. Ty was the spiritual center of Heaven's Gate. She was the one who gave the cosmology its authority, its structure, its internal logic. And she was the only person Marshall Applewhite treated as an equal, the only one who could question him, the only one who could say no. When she died, Applewhite was devastated. But the ideology could not accommodate devastation. Death was not loss, it was graduation. Ty had simply moved to the next level ahead of them. She was waiting there. She was preparing for their arrival. So Applewhite did not grieve publicly. He could not afford to. Instead, he did what people do when the anchor is gone and the mission must survive. He tightened his grip. The one person who kept him grounded had moved beyond his reach.
After she died, the rules did not loosen. They tightened. The body itself became the enemy.
Without T, Do became the sole authority. There was no counterbalance, no second opinion, no one whose word carried the same weight. The controls deepened. Members were monitored constantly. Schedules were rigid. Sleep was regulated. Contact with the outside world, already minimal, was reduced to almost nothing. And then Applewhite introduced a new requirement. The body must be completely overcome, not just disciplined, defeated. 8 male members, including Applewhite himself, underwent voluntary castration. The procedure was performed in Mexico. It was presented not as punishment, but as liberation, the final surrender of the vehicle to the soul inside it. Applewhite's own struggle with his sexuality, the shame he carried since long before the group existed, had become doctrine. His private war became everyone's war, and no one in the group had the standing to say this had gone too far, because the only person who could have said that was already at the next level. The body was not just denied, it was declared the enemy.
From the outside, they were functional, professional. They ran a web design business called Higher Source.
In the early 1990s, the group settled in a rented mansion in Rancho Santa Fe, California. From the outside, they were unremarkable. They ran a web design business called Higher Source. Their clients included local businesses and at least one regional theater company. Their work was competent, professional, delivered on time. They were technically skilled. They answered emails. They paid rent. They recorded videos of themselves, calm, articulate, seated in front of plain backgrounds, and uploaded them to their website. If you watched those videos without context, you would not see desperation. You would see people who believed deeply in something and wanted to explain it clearly. Their website was meticulous. It is still live today. The paradox of Heaven's Gate is that it did not look like a cult from the outside. It looked like a commune of quiet, disciplined people who happened to believe in something most others did not. That is what made it effective, and that is what made it invisible. They built websites for a living. They were building something else for a death.
In 1996, a comet appeared. Applewhite told them it carried a spacecraft, and T was on it.
The claim was quickly debunked, but Applewhite did not need it to be true. He needed it to be useful. The comet was the sign they had been waiting for. A spacecraft was trailing behind it. Ty was aboard. It was time to shed the containers, time to graduate, time to leave. For a group that had spent 2 decades preparing to exit the human level, Hale-Bopp was not a surprise. It was confirmation. Everything they had given up, names, relationships, autonomy, bodily integrity, had been preparation for this. The comet did not radicalize them. It gave them a date. The comet was not the cause. It was the calendar.
Over 3 days, in 3 coordinated waves, 39 people lay down and did not get up.
In March 1997, the members of Heaven's Gate recorded farewell videos. They sat in front of the camera, one at a time. They smiled. They said goodbye. They said they were grateful. They said they were ready. Then, over 3 days, in 3 coordinated waves, they carried out a plan they had rehearsed. Phenobarbital mixed into applesauce or pudding, washed down with vodka, plastic bags placed over their heads. Each wave lay down. The next wave covered them with purple shrouds, cleaned the room, and then took their own dose. The final wave had no one left to cover them. They did it themselves. $5.75 in each pocket. The exact fare, some believe, for a toll. An overnight bag beside each bed, packed for a trip they believed in completely. Marshall Applewhite was among the last. The youngest was 26. The oldest was 72.
The question is not why they believed. The question is when they lost the ability to stop.
There is a lazy answer to this story. It is, those people were crazy. It allows the listener to set the story down and move on. But it is not true. These were not people who woke up one morning and decided to die for a comet. They arrived at that moment the same way anyone arrives at the far end of a closed system. One small step at a time. A name change, a diet rule, a relationship severed, a piece of mail you were no longer allowed to open, a question you were no longer allowed to ask. This is the psychology of totalism. When a closed system removes every external reference point, the internal logic, no matter how extreme, becomes the only reality. Names, gone. Families, gone. Autonomy, appearance, sexuality, bodily integrity, gone. By the time someone asks you to leave your body, you have already left everything that made it yours. The final step was not a leap. It was the last in a series that started so small, you never noticed the first one.
2 members stayed behind. Someone had to maintain the website. They still believe.
The mansion was discovered by a former member who had been contacted by those inside. The media descended. The Nike shoes, the purple shrouds, the packed bags, the matching outfits. It became the punchline version of a tragedy. But the story did not end in that house. 2 members who had left the group before the final act were given a task. Maintain the website, answer the emails, keep the message available. They accepted. The Heaven's Gate website remains online today. Those 2 members still believe. They stayed behind not because they doubted, but because someone had to. And that may be the most unsettling detail of all. Not that 39 people died believing they were leaving, but that the ones who survived still believe and chose to stay in a world they consider temporary, maintaining a website for a group that is already gone. Someone is still answering the emails. The house is empty. The message is still live.
Still here? Subscribe, hit the bell. Next one's waiting.